It's often said that we're not taught how to handle money in school. So how do we talk about it and learn more about it? Let's find out in today's video. Welcome to Money Talk with Skylar Fleming, where we break down financial complexity into everyday conversations. Let's get talking. Let's get talking all about how we can do better with money by talking about it more. Today we're going to talk about how to start a money talk. This is something that can be very intimidating for everyone because money impacts all of us. We aren't taught how to handle money in school, so where do we even start? How do you ask a friend how to overcome a financial situation? Is it rude to talk about money? Well, there's a whole lot we're going to talk about. Today's video stems from episode 124 with Bob Wheeler, where we really navigated the emotions behind money through money talks. Why is it important to talk about money in order to overcome those emotional hurdles and those overwhelming feelings that so often come with money? Episode 124 is chock full of great information, so be sure to head over to YouTube or your favorite podcast player and give it a listen. But today's video is also full of great insights from previous podcast episodes. So there's going to be a whole lot of great knowledge brought into one great topic because this podcast is called Money Talk with Skylar Fleming. So it really wouldn't live up to its name if we didn't know how to talk about money. So there's a lot of great episodes out there on my podcast about starting a money talk. Let's listen to some of them today and dive even deeper into how to start a money talk. How do you break the ice when it comes to talking about money? How do you get that conversation started? Well, episode 41 has some great insights. Let's give it a listen. So how do you handle all of these different types of conversations and different relationships where you can talk about money? Well, let's go over those. If you're talking with a spouse, that's first. Be completely open and honest. Understand the other's viewpoints and try to figure out why they feel the way they do. Ask some thought-provoking questions of why. Why do you think like that? Don't ask it in some sort of a petty way where you're like, well, why do you think about it like that? It's this simple, blah, blah. And then you just leave an open-ended question to try to understand each other. As for friends, don't reveal too much. Your friends probably don't care. Keep the conversation on topic and don't share how great you're doing with money if you are doing well. It could lead to others feeling jealous. Don't force conversation. We'll talk about this more in a moment, but it especially applies to friends. As for family, let it be a natural conversation. Let it be something that just comes up. Don't try to force it, like with friends, coworkers, communities, and strangers. These three, they really all have to be natural. Are you seeing a trend in this? As you heard in that clip, and as you'll hear in the rest of the episode when you go check it out, be simple, be open, be honest. And your friends honestly probably don't want to tell you very much, and they don't want to hear all your great stories and how much you're winning. Keep it open, broad, and simple. Ask general financial questions. And don't dive super deep into the very personal questions like, how much credit card debt do you have? Are you buried in debt? Are you sure you should be making that purchase? That's not something that's going to open up a great and healthy money talk. So make sure you're breaking the ice with simple, tiny conversations that aren't going to dive too deep into people's personal lives, because really nobody wants to do that. No one wants to share that much information in their initial, very first money talk with you. You may get there at some point where people are sharing more and more details, but it's not going to happen right away. So be calm, patient, and simple with your money talks when it comes to breaking that money talking ice. The Money Talking Points is a resource that I created to help you get started talking about money. We're going to throw back way to episode 28 and hear what I had to say when I first created the Money Talking Points. Today's first thing is, what are the Money Talking Points? Well, they're key conversational starting points. Think about the baby steps that Dave Ramsey puts out, or other podcasts and different financial people's key steps to follow when it comes to your personal finance plan. Those help you figure out what route to take when it comes to your personal finances. The Money Talking Points help you figure out where to start when it comes to talking about personal finances, whether it's with friends, family, significant others, and so on. These are questions that are going to help you walk through a discussion about personal finance because it can seem very daunting. Have you ever found yourself asking a friend or a significant other, how much money do you make? And then you pause because it feels really awkward to ask that question. Well, you should. Like, those are the sort of things that we should have conversations around. Maybe there's a different way to start the conversation about that, but we need to get talking about money more. And these Money Talking Points are going to help you start having the conversation about personal finance. How do you begin with these questions? Let's talk about that next. The main thing to start with is know that these questions are a guide to help begin eye-opening discussions and help you begin to understand how others view money. Because if you think about it, how does your coworkers view money? Do they view it in a sense where there's not enough money to be had and they just keep wanting to make more and make more money? Or do they view it in a way where they're scared and want to protect all of their money because they're had some sort of traumatic experience as a child that changed their family financially forever. There's a lot of things that we just don't know about how each other handles money, and these discussion questions and the money talking points can help you dive right into that. I hope you liked that little tidbit about the money talking points from episode 28. Let's go over all 7 of the money talking points real quick here. The first one is, what will I do in an emergency? Number 2 is, how am I making money? Number 3 is, how am I spending money? Number 4 is, how am I saving money? Number 5 is, do I want to pay off all of my debt? Number 6, what do I want my retirement to look like? And number 7, what are my big money goals? You can find those money talking points at skylarfleming.com/resource. The resource that you'll find online is going to have some guiding questions as well that you can use to kind of dive deeper into each one of the money talking points. So I highly recommend anybody go check it out, have a money talk with a friend, break the ice with the money talking points, and get your money talk started today. The next thing that might be coming to your mind is, isn't it rude to talk about money? Maybe you've had people come back and say, you shouldn't be asking me about money. That's personal. Don't talk to me about money. It shouldn't be talked about. Is it rude to talk about money? I don't think so. Episode 101 is going to give us some great insight to the question, is it rude to talk about money? I don't think it is, but it might be if you're trying to be too specific. Is it rude to talk about money? Well, is it generally rude? I would say no. Maybe if you're coming up to some random person on the street and saying, how much money do you make? How much debt do you have? How much credit card debt do you use? How much do you use your credit cards? And you just start bombarding things at people. You just start throwing money topics at people. That's going to be pretty rude. But generally, I would say money is a fine topic to talk about. I think you'll find more often than not, money comes up in conversations, whether it's topics about people paying off their car loan, topics about people getting discounts on prescriptions because they were just way too expensive, but their insurance got them a discount. Those sort of topics kind of broadly happen, and that's great. Those are things that we need to talk about, because what if someone comes up to you and says, I couldn't get my prescription because it was too expensive and my insurance didn't cover it? That can start a money talk about maybe some alternative insurance options that maybe you weren't aware of that could help you reduce those costs in your life. What is out of bounds to talk about? Like I said, you don't want to just bombard people with money topics. What I would say is out of bounds is very, very specific personal questions that are kind of borderline unnecessary to know. You don't really need to know exactly how much money someone budgets towards an exact thing in every exact month. That's just a little too much information. I think the broader topics are great things, especially to start your money talks with. If you've never had a money talk with someone, I don't think going up to them and saying, how much do you make per paycheck after tax, after your 401k contribution, and what are you doing with that money? So overall, don't brag about your money. It just hurts people's feelings. No one really wants to hear it. Frankly, nobody cares. If other people are bragging, don't take it personal. There's probably financial struggles that they're just not showing or not telling, so they're trying to mask it by bragging about something they are doing well with their money. So I would say generally avoid bragging, avoid bombarding people with questions, bombarding them with specific personal questions. Like we mentioned earlier in this video, you want to keep it simple and high level so that you can easily start comfortable money talks. Make sure you're sharing real struggles that you're having if you are talking about your financial struggles. The call center that I used to work at, people would find it a lot more helpful when they were open and honest about the financial situation they were in. If they called in trying to cheat the system or lie to us about why they were getting fees or something and then wanted them rebated, it was a whole lot harder to help them. Whereas when they were being honest, maybe they were in a tough financial spot, then it's a whole lot easier to reach up the chain of command, get the help they need, and get them the fees they needed rebated back, or whatever help they might need. So be honest and open in your financial conversations when you are sharing your financial struggles. It's going to help everybody have a better money talk, and it's going to help you do better with your money because people are going to be real and honest with you. You might be cringing a little bit at the idea of sharing a financial struggle you have. That might be something that's really difficult for you right now, but it does get easier and easier to talk about money. Let's throw it to episode 89 with the Rad Coaches and how they shared how it gets easier for them to talk about money together.
100% it gets easier. I find that the more that you talk about something, the easier it's going to get. Imagine, like, I heard someone talk about this in a different setting, but imagine if you aren't willing to bring up small issues, how can we talk about the hard issues, right? And so by me saying like, hey, like it bothers me that we leave our clothes out in the bathroom every morning, like that's a small thing, but how am I going to be able to talk about things like life insurance or, the next big step in our life if I can't even talk about a small thing like clothes on the floor. And I think the same thing applies here with finances, is that, if we aren't willing to talk about the small purchases, how can we talk about the big ones? And so by having a daily conversation about what we're doing with our money, it really starts to pay off, because then these other conversations get bigger or get better and better.
Awesome. Yeah. Rebecca, what are your thoughts? Does talking about money get easier? Is it hard to talk about money with Dylan?
No, not at all. It gets so much easier. And, our clients see this too, that just, there was just this worry that it would turn into something that they didn't want it to. They wanted it to harm the relationship and whatnot. But what ends up happening, like we were saying, is it really ends up strengthening the relationship, and you end up getting so much easier, because it also, once you get through the really hard work, it just becomes exciting. And it's like, yeah, let's look at the progress that we made. Like, that's so thrilling, like, oh yes, vacation is totally funded. Or heck yeah, credit cards paid off, so it's all the lens that you view it through. And it's, being able to celebrate those wins, whatever they are, but eventually they just get bigger and bigger. And so it's just like, all right, sweet action. We're doing good. And you actually get to, especially like if in the past you've had financial anxiety or things like that, you really just get that soothing, like, I'm good. And that feels so awesome, like on a really deep level. So it gets easier. It gets so much easier. Just start talking about money, guys.
Thanks again to the Rad Coaches for coming on my podcast, clear back in episode 89. It was a great conversation about how to start a money conversation, and especially how to start one in a marriage. But that's really also the main point that episode 124 with Bob Wheeler is getting at. How do you move past those overwhelming emotions that money talks can often have into the logical thinking that we all really want? We want to be able to think logically about our money, figure out the next best move. So be sure to go check out episode 89 and episode 124 for some great insight on how to move your money talks from emotional and overwhelming to logic and really have a good foundation set. So how do you actually apply this? Well, take the money talking points that you can find at skylarfleming.com/resource. Take one of those questions, ask it to a friend, and have a money talk. Have your first money talk be about something that's not even related to your financial situation. That's a great way to get over the burden of fear or the burden of embarrassment, is to ask a question that's unrelated to your personal finance situation, because you might be worried. How am I going to ask someone how to get out of the $50,000 of credit card debt that I somehow find myself in? That's maybe a little embarrassing. And it's not. It's totally okay. Millions of people find themselves in unknown financial situations where they're not sure how they got there. But maybe you do feel a little uneasy about sharing that right away. Well, start with a conversation that has nothing to do with your specific situation. It'll make it a whole lot easier for you to make that leap to ask that hard money talk question later down the road. If you ever want to have a money talk with someone, feel free to send me an email. I'd love to have a money talk with anyone who wants to reach out. I'd love to connect with more listeners and get money talks going with each and every one of you. If you like today's video, you're going to like the episode with the Rad Coaches of how to start a money conversation. You're also going to like episode 28 about the money talking points. So be sure to go check those out here on YouTube or on any podcast player. And speaking of YouTube and podcast players, make sure you're subscribed over there as well so you don't miss any future videos or future episodes. But thank you for watching Money Talk with Skylar Fleming. Have a great week.